le feu, mes chagrins, mes plaisirs, je n'ai plus besoin de balayer les amours avec leur trémolo, balayer pour toujours, je repars à zéro. Non, rien de rien, non, je ne regrette rien, ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien, non, je ne regrette rien, car ma vie, car mes joies, ça commence avec toi.
often do these late night builds on some old kit I've found, and my mind goes back to the shelves and stacks of a store that's not around. It was not far from my neighborhood. I just liked to look around, where I'd forget the glue and would then have to go back to Hobby Town. I remember many years ago, the first kit that I chose. Then every day, a new display as my stash steadily grows. The kits I make may one day break, and dust might fill my nose. But I still build, and I always will. I'm an idiot, I suppose. So I bid farewell to Hobby Town. I never more will see. But paint and glue are what I do, so it's eBay stores for me. Oh, I could have gotten all their stock, but I'm not one of those. They were almost free, but that's not me. I'm an idiot, I suppose. So come on, ye old glue troopers who can still build model kits. The kits are new, some need no glue, and others'll give you fits. When the paint's not dry, then you must try to leave it as it sits. If the kit is old, it can raise your soul when you have finished it. So let's bid farewell to the days of yore we never more will see. Grab your glue and get right back to that vintage old styrene. Oh, a Miss Aurora and Monogram and the old kits that we chose. But we still build, and we always will. We're all idiots, I suppose.
Ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. C'est payé. J'ai allumé le feu, mes chagrins, mes plaisirs. Je n'ai plus besoin de balayer les amours avec leur trémolo. Balayer.
Okay, well the audio is hot. Okay. Let's start. Oh, okay.
No.
Again. There we go. Okay, I'll take the Jim picture down for a second. And we are live. We're going to start early, guys, because that's how we roll. Everybody, welcome to another scintillating episode of Max's Models Livestream. I have the usual suspects, Ken and Steve, on the horn here. Voice check, guys. Steve?
3, 2, 1.
Ken?
Voice check.
Very good. Well, guys, if you can hear them, just give me a 5. If not, tell me you can't hear them. We have got so much stuff to talk about tonight. Short, before we get started too far into it, I got started a couple hours ago getting ready for this, and somehow the time evaporated into smoke. So I've got a ton of stuff downloaded, but nothing in the program, so we'll be just fishing for it as we go off of my computer. And we're going to be talking about, first off, we got some unboxings, one from Mr. Nicholas and one from Garfield. And we have some shout outs to give, and we have a couple of museums to talk about with some great model collections, and one of the stupidest approaches I've ever flown, which Steve had warned me about, and he's just a passenger, but passengers can look out the window and go, my God, those buildings are close. I visited San Francisco, San Diego, Salt Lake. I've never been to San Diego or Salt Lake before, so we'll talk a little bit about that because there is some model-related stuff. And San Francisco I hadn't been to in 15 years, and some stuff there. But mostly we'll be talking about models. And I got some work done on the TARDIS today, which is one reason that I'm a little behind here. It got carried away. The good news is you'll all be glad to know that I took a shower, so I smell fresh, so you don't have to smell me stink through the computer. Just in case some of you have smellograph. But anyway, so the first thing to talk about, though, is the loss of Jim Wangers. And Steve, you're the expert on this, so I'm going to let you talk about this gentleman who just passed away at the age of 97.
Thanks, Max. Well, Jim was the promotions manager and the man really responsible for promoting Pontiac High Performance. He started out in the early 60s. He partnered up with Royal Pontiac in Michigan, and they raced a bunch of cars in NHRA to kind of make Pontiac more of a presence in performance car. He was the one who put together the advertising campaign for the wide track Pontiac. Well, when the GTO came along, which you see him standing next to in the picture, he went full tilt and was really responsible for promoting the heck out of that car and getting it to be the car that everybody wanted to have. He also was responsible for having the Monkey Mobile built. He came up with an idea because the monkeys at the time were very hot, and the GTO was a hot car. And
You cut out, Steve. Steve? Ken? Steve? Ken? Okay, we just had a major communications glitch. Can you guys still hear me? All right, this is different. You cut out, Steve. Okay, I can still hear me. Guys, are you there? Wow. Technology. Okay, I'm going to hang up and call him again.
Communication terminated.
Thank you, Sal. Oh, wow. It just never stops. This is what happens when you have the lowest production values in the internet. I'm going to call him back. I'm going to start with Steve. And by the way, speaking of which, guys, a young Blue Trooper Gavin Swan sent me an email.
Forwarded to an
Oh,
automatic voice
great.
message system. Communication terminated.
I hate you, universe. Hello, Steve? Oh, did it just auto dial without me telling it to? Technology.
Hello?
Hey,
Yeah.
the communications just died. Both you and Ken.
Don't know what happened. It just cut off.
It just died. It just stopped. And I've got a
Yeah.
good signal. Ken, you can call me back, Ken, and we'll merge in. So you talked about him making the Monkey Mobile, and then that's about where it died.
He gave two GTOs to Dean Jeffries, and they made the Monkey Mobiles. And Pontiac management was not happy because they did not like the way that it looked and thought it didn't look enough like a GTO, but it sort of did the job. People knew it was a GTO. It was a very popular, show car. And he stayed with Pontiac for many years and GM, and then he became an automotive consultant and did promotions for a variety of other companies. But he's always been associated with the GTO for the things he did. I mean, they had some pretty interesting commercials for the GTO. They had the one where the car came to a stop and they opened the hood and the tiger jumped out of the hood.
I remember that one.
They had the one with the when they came out in '68 with the Endura rubberized front bumper where the guy hit it with a crowbar.
I think I might remember that one also.
Yeah, and they had a couple of drag racing cars. They had the GTO Tigers, which Revell made models of,
Mm-hmm.
and so he did a lot for the brand, and he's kind of a legend in the automotive advertising industry.
Well,
And as
mm-hmm.
you put up that slide there with all the models,
Mm-hmm.
AMT just repopped that '68 GTO hardtop model, and they just released it. So, the GTO still a very popular car in the modeling scene.
I will tell you, you guys, if you've watched this channel, you already know this. It is my favorite car and my favorite kit car at the model. I built the Monkeys Mobile and 2 GTOs, a convertible and a hardtop. And now that we've done this, I got to go get the '68 that's been repopped because I don't have that body style. And just as a side note, when we were kids, none of us knew what GTO stood for. So we always made stuff like, we all thought SS meant super sport, which some people, oh yeah, it means super sport, which of course it didn't really mean anything, it was just a marketing thing. And GTO, which of course, Gran Turismo Lamagato, which is Italian, which was it Ferrari that did the original GTO?
Yes.
And then
he got the GTO to be compared to the Ferrari GTO in Car and Driver magazine.
Now, and I'm sure this was all a very cleverly thought out marketing thing. They, of course, were accused of, copying Ferrari, and they claimed that, no, we're paying a respectful homage to Ferrari because we have so much respect for their cars. And I'm sorry, but my BS detector went off on that. I'm like, no, you're not. You're stealing the glory from Ferrari, fully planning to use that very excuse when people bring that point up.
Absolutely.
Now that's a marketing genius.
I think one of the cleverest.
Hello, Steve?
One of the cleverest things they did was when Here Comes the Judge became very popular on Roland and Martin.
The '69 Judge.
They came out with the Judge,
which I never really made that connection. I was like, but it worked. And I actually probably a year ago, I think it was on a live stream or maybe it was one of my videos, I actually found one of the old clips, and I think it was Sammy Davis doing it. Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. And I actually used that in one of my videos because although I never made the connection, it became part of car culture and kit model culture, not only because of that, but even recently, the comedian Bill Engvall did one of his television specials, and he had a judge on stage. And he was complaining about in like 1969, 1970, when he was a teenager, how his first car was some, secondhand whatever. And he goes, one of my classmates had a 69 or 1970, like 442 Judge, and he had it on stage, and didn't appreciate it. And I was thinking, I get it. Most likely, with the exception of some of the younger folks that are watching this, and we're going to get to you guys in a second. We understand the reference. I still believe we were born and raised in the best of times. But, the weird relationship between, a laugh-in skit and a car, yet they made it work, and I'm sure Wangers had to be behind that. So it's a testament to his genius as a marketing guy. Hello?
He was quite the guy. I mean, he took what was available and ran with it and made it something. And he made it stuff that people recognized and associated with the car.
Well,
that's pretty much what branding is all about.
Yeah, and of course, you and I both know that the real genius behind the GTO was, drum roll, Steve?
John DeLorean.
John DeLorean.
He figured out how to get around the corporate ban for putting large engines or manufacturing a car with a large engine based on the power to weight ratio by using the GTO engine and suspension options as an option package on the Tempest. So all you did was check the box, and the car came with the GTO badging, the GTO engine, and the GTO suspension and brakes.
That's awesome. So
And once they sold zillions of them, and they really did sell a lot of them. I mean, 64 was the first year, but 65, it really, really took hold. And after that, it was like, just make them. And then all the other divisions made them. Oldsmobile made the 442, Buick made the Grand Sport, Chevrolet had the Chevelles. I mean, it was... then it was Katie bar the door. They just went wild with every division.
I'm reading some of the comments, and I love it. Sock it to me, baby. I think it was Tom made the comment earlier when you guys cut out. He says, I hear disconnected people.
There you go.
Oh, man, Glue Troopers are a really incredibly clever bunch. Come on,
what is this? You're out. You're enough of car talk. Let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a portion of the car model kits.
Well, the thing is, I really think the GTO made, maybe next to the Mustang, that's an interesting question. What is the most modeled kit? And the GTO and the Mustang are for cars. And right. For airplanes, it's probably the P-51 or the Zero. But for kit model cars, I think the GTO is in the running for the most modeled. Guys, just so you know, this slide that we're looking at right now, I threw together in about 15 seconds, let's be honest, stealing pictures from ScaleMates. 5 minutes, actually, while the intro was running, and Steve and I were kind of doing a quasi pre-show briefing, and I'm trying to throw something together. Ken's here. Okay, let me see if I can get him. Hang on, I'm going to merge him in. Okay. It says merge with Steve. Here we go. And merge. And Ken, are you back?
I'm back. Sorry, I got disconnected.
Yeah, no, everybody did. The call, it dropped you and Steve both. I don't know what happened. And I have 3 bars.
Well, I think the other kit that goes in the running for that is also the Corvette.
Yes, that's true. The Corvette would be another one. But you brought it up. I think the GTO has every year it was in production modeled.
Yes.
But it had a limited run. It went from 64 to 70 something?
Yeah, maybe not the last year, because the last year it was really a horrible car that they just, put GTO on it.
What was that? What year was that?
That was like 74, I think.
Oh, that was the real upswing of the malaise era, the post-fuel crisis and everything.
That was when, cars had 110 horsepower and they were sports cars.
Well, because tangents are my superpower, let's swerve, if that's an appropriate phrase in this case. Let's swerve into 1973, 1974, the malaise era. If you guys are car guys, you may be familiar with a YouTube channel called Ed's Auto Reviews. Ironically, the guy's Belgian, but he loves American cars. He does great videos. I watch every one of them he puts out. Well, he did a 3-part, which later became a 4-part special on the malaise era in the 70s. And
I saw that.
Oh, was it not? Did you like it?
Yeah, it was very true. What he said.
The nice thing about a European guy doing it is that he doesn't have a dog in the fight. He
right.
sees as an outsider, so he has a pretty balanced view. But as you guys know, 73 we had the oil crisis. Now, the malaise era in cars between the 69 safety requirements, which even Jay Leno laments, about the bumpers and everything, all the car, the looks changed and everything because all the new standards. But in 73, the oil crisis not only hit the American auto industry, and we started putting out crap. I don't think anybody will argue that, especially if you owned a Vega. But the kit models started getting clobbered also because of the high, styrene being a petroleum product, prices of models went up, sales plummeted, and
there were also crap cars who wanted to build them.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. No one wanted to build a 74 GTO because it was a garbage car.
Yeah, or a Citation.
Oh, God, don't even get me started on the Slotation. Okay, since you said it, so this is, guys, officially,
no here.
This is all Steve's fault.
Let me bite my tongue.
The Tallahassee Police Department. And I got out of the Army in 83, and I'm from the Panhandle of Florida, very near Tallahassee. And I went home and started college at Tallahassee Community College, I think in 84. and the TPD had started driving Citations and the Phoenix, which is a Citation under another badge, because the Tallahassee City Council wanted to get all economy minded. And I'm sorry, it's just hard to take the po-pos serious when they pull up in a freaking Celebrity or Citation. Now hold on. When I became a cop in '87, we were driving Celebrities, so I can't throw too many punches. But we eventually got back to Crown Vics. Anyway, point I'm getting at is that the malaise era was of course that was a long time later, but oh my God, the police were wearing them out. You know, those cars were not designed to last. And you can find a few models of them, but I wish somebody made a kit model of the Tallahassee Citations and Phoenixes. I'd get one just so I could giggle at it.
Don't forget the K cars.
Actually, though, you know what? They say the K car is the car that saved Chrysler.
Yes, it is.
And
because why?
When I was in the Army, what?
He sold them to the rent-a-car fleets.
Yes, but
that's why.
I have to say one thing in defense of the K car. When I was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, in the 101st Airborne Division, I know it's hard to look at me now and believe this, but I actually was in the 101st Airborne. Well, here, you know what? I just should. This is me at Fort.
He's going to pull out the Army photo.
Yeah, here we go. This is me at Fort Campbell at Son DZ in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, getting ready to go skydiving. So I wasn't always the behemoth. I used to be able to run a couple of miles and all that other good stuff. I'll hang that back up later. Anyway,
I used to tease him that he would overgross a 152.
Unfortunately, he isn't that far off. But they had a very limited gross weight with fuel. I did. Man,
there he is.
We are swinging on tangents here. A Cessna 150 with full tanks. Ken, I think you might have been at GAI at Gaithersburg Airport with me when we calculated it. It had the useful load. A Cessna 150 with full fuel tanks had a useful load of, 140 pounds or something?
Pretty close to that, yeah.
I mean, it was a single-seat airplane if you were, an underweight 12-year-old. Anyway, so the military police,
even the 152 with
the mighty
full
112
tanks,
horsepower engine.
I think it maxed out at 300 pounds.
I think it was gross weight of 300 pounds with Well, if you had full tanks, you had a legal maximum useful weight of about 300 pounds, which meant two 150-pound people could gross out the airplane. And the average flight instructor probably weighed 150 or 160 because he was starving to death.
That's why we never flew with full tanks.
Yeah, they always go out with half tanks if they want to stay legal. In aviation, three most useless things on the ground are the altitude above you, the runway behind you, and the fuel truck on the ground. So guys really like to go out with at least 3/4 to full tanks just in case. But anywho, but when I was at Fort Campbell in 1980, it actually made the base paper. The MPs got their new cars. They got K cars. They had been driving Mavericks. Now, the Maverick, I know there were muscle car versions. That is not what the MPs were issued. And I'm sorry, but my grandma had a 4-door Maverick, which is what they drove. And it was just hard to take the monkey patrol, the MPs, seriously when they were driving Mavericks. But when they got the K cars, even though the light bars were a little too big and they looked a little goofy, at least they were boxy and looked like police cars.
Well, the one thing you could say for the K car was it was the progenitor of the minivan.
Okay, you have my attention.
The minivan, the front wheel drive assembly was what they based the first Chrysler minivans on.
The Caravan?
Started the whole minivan category.
That was a Chrysler Caravan?
Yeah, that's what really saved Chrysler, because it was the first minivan that you could put in the garage.
Oh.
And it also had the sliding doors, and it had the fold-down seats, and it was something like nobody had ever seen before. And
Okay.
that was
Okay.
Because the drivetrain in the front part of the front clip was from the K car.
All right. Well, since you brought that up, Glue Troopers, I'm sure somebody's burning up the keyboards right now. Are there any kit models of minivans? I know there are van models because I built one when I did my kit bash of the possum van for the Canadian build from the Red Green show. So there's a few vans out there, but there are actually that many kits of minivans. Can you think of any offhand?
Yeah, there were, but I can't. But there were. Somebody did make them.
You know better than to bring up a subject, because the first thing I'm going to ask you is, did someone make a model of it? Bill just picked up the AMT. Bill just picked up the AMT Mach 1. Oh, my favorite Mustang. By the way, real quick, guys, I didn't get around to, and Steve, you already know this, but Mike Machat was able to fix the Mustang because he had a phone. I guess you guys had a conversation. He found out the problem. So, although I don't have a picture of it, the Mustang that Steve sent to Mike has been repaired. So, booyah.
I'll breathe easier tonight knowing that.
I will too. By the way, before I forget, and to paraphrase, was it Monty Python and Al for something completely different? Gavin, I think I saw Gavin Swan's out there. Guys, Gavin Swan is a very young Glue Trooper who sent me a video, and he sent me an email, and it said the lowest production values on the internet, which is my claim to fame. And I watched a couple of his videos. He and his younger brother are model builders, and he's got a channel out there, which I forgot to link below. Excuse me. But guys, go out and give him a view, because the reason I want to help promote his channel is I am extremely thrilled to see teenagers and young people getting into building kit models, and they're the future. And he and his younger brother are building some models, and they started a YouTube channel, which I think something every model builder should do, just for kicks and giggles. And even if it gets 10 or 25 views, hey, folks love to share. It's a great way to share. So Gavin, good on you. I promised you a shout out, and at some point later in one of the regular daily videos, I'll try and talk about it. And when we're done here and this goes into post, I'll try to remember to put a link in there. But it warms my heart to see young people get involved in building models, which is
okay.
Anywho, so
Tom Fox and Bill Campbell say Lindbergh made the model of the Dodge Caravan.
Okay, now that would have been one of the later Lindbergh kits after George Totiff had taken over, which means it's probably a good kit, because one of the things, we all know Lindbergh had a pretty shaky reputation, but when Totiff took over, he cleaned their act up, and the later Lindbergh kits were on par with the NPC kits.
Rob Altus says it was 96.
Okay, I'll go with I will not argue that.
Hey Steve, you're gonna have to watch the comments. I can't get them on my screen.
I'm looking at them, Ken. So
Okay.
no problem.
All right.
Max, it would be helpful to put out the dates for the upcoming builds.
For the upcoming builds.
Good. Okay, guys. At the moment, I am planning. I had said Mother's Day, which I was just reminded is tomorrow. I am in so much trouble. But I have pushed back the kit bash to the end of this month. Now, I'm trying not to go off on a tangent right now. I'm roping in that tangent and pulling it back. If you can get your kit bash photos in by the end of next month, and your muscle cars by the end of next month, and when this is done, I will go out, cut and paste the schedule on there, which is prone to change. But remember, the schedule will always get pushed back, never forward. And in fact, since you brought that time to go grab an image. Let's see. I have 408 photographs in here. When we get talking about the museum. Okay, let's see. Okay, here we go.
You just have the ones with the girls in them?
This is how far I have gotten with my kit bash diorama. So clearly, I have a lot of work left to excuse me, a lot of work left to do, and anyway. So if anything, it'll get pushed back, but hopefully, end of the month, get me your pictures of your kit bash by the end of the month. And I will, and I don't know when the video will go up. I have my work schedule. Okay, since we're talking about that, let me add one other thing real quick here. I have 68 unread emails and about 40 more that I've read and have not replied to. Because of my tendency to lose track of stuff on the road, I have been getting your emails. I know I have not replied to a lot of them. I wanted to wait till I got home. I had planned to do that today. I've already told you how today got out of hand. Hopefully tomorrow I'll go through many of my emails, and by Tuesday...
You probably should not tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, that's why...
Tomorrow wouldn't be a good day to be doing that, unless you plan on spending way more time on the road.
Well said, my good man. Well played. Wednesday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon. Hopefully I'll have responded to a lot of your emails. I've got your pictures. They're all flowing in. The reason I didn't open the emails or respond to them is I didn't want to misplace them. So, I will try to catch up this week. I have 2 weeks off. Of course, I have the cruise. But if nothing else, at the last week of the month, I can pretty much dedicate a lot of time to getting caught up on stuff. And then sometime, probably by the 10th of next month, I'll have the video up with the kit bash. I have you guys have sent some really cool stuff in. I have a lot of things that I want to do, and obviously I'm behind on my building myself. So, it's just, having this darn job to earn an income to feed my family is really getting in the way of my modeling. But, anywho, so, but right now...
Nobody from the airline is watching this right now.
I never said anything about an airline. Did I say airline? I didn't say airline. I said job. I never said airline.
It's his YouTube job.
I never said airline. And if anybody says I said airline...
You don't have a bed in the Tarbis. That's the problem.
I never said
you
airline.
A bed in there, a refrigerator, little porta potty, and then...
Yeah, that's what I would need, because... anyway...
Hey, speaking of job, we'll go down a slight tangent here. Steve,
that's what we do.
Some news?
Oh, yes, I have a new job. I'm now working for the Hershey Corporation.
Doing what? What? What?
I'm working for the Hershey Corporation, handling convenience stores in the Delmarva Peninsula.
Scintillating. I'm sorry, I shouldn't.
As well as still working for Atlantis, but
Yes.
Steve.
When you're calling me up asking for kisses and Mr. Goodbars, it won't be so bad.
For kisses?
Yes, Hershey kisses. Remember those?
Steve.
Those, yeah. Okay.
Steve, I think you have trouble grasping the concept of retirement. So.
Yeah, he seems to have totally lost that.
Okay.
Retirement is for people who want to wait to become dead.
Okay, if you say so.
That's not my idea. They're going to take me screaming and grabbing everything on my last day.
Okay.
I plan on going out as I came in, screaming.
Well.
And kicking.
Speaking of models, if you notice over my head in the picture, there's that magnificent Jack Linwood painting. Here, let me adjust this just a little bit. There's that magnificent, as Mike called it, tear sheet from the Jack Linwood painting. And my wife came up with a great idea. She was in the Tarbis today with me, helping me get everything organized. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And she said, why don't you take that model sailing ship and put it in front of the Linwood artwork? And so I now have that model sailing vessel in front of Linwood artwork. And you can probably just barely see that I have the Astute class submarine. It probably just looks like it's right in front. You can't really make it out that well because I don't have that great a camera on my thing here. But we put it up there kind of showing where sailing was and where sailing is. But anyway, she helped me get the...
I'm kind of thinking the Nautilus in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Well, I actually have. If you look right there over this shoulder, I put up a little more box art up on the wall, and I have that Morrison 50th anniversary Nautilus model there, although you can't really make it out in this image. But I put... speaking of which, let me go ahead and show you guys a couple of pictures. I did get a little bit of work done in the Tarbis today, and back down to the bottom here. Show you what we got going up here. Here we go. So I got some of this office was getting very cluttered, so I moved some of the models, like the Volkswagens and stuff, over to the Tarbis. Hung the picture that used to be over my mantle on the Tarbis, which of course was replaced by that magnificent Mort Kunstler era Commander artwork. There will be, of course, more models going out there. You can also see where I'm working on the Yellow Fever. It is so far from being done, but we have it in the next month to get the hot rod and muscle car stuff done, which I hope to have it done by then. I will not be doing the Yellow Fever paint scheme. I will be doing my own paint scheme and my own little diorama with it. And hopefully we'll get that other model car done, but because it's perfect for that build. But this is what the Tarbis is looking like right now. I tell you what, let me just do a fit to screen. Transform, fit to screen. Booyah. And in addition to all of this, now I am, by the way, just to let you know, these pictures, the box art is pinned up. It's not taped up. I don't want to damage the boxes, and more will be up there. You know, I love the new Tarbis. It's great. It's got more room and everything. But I think you guys will agree, if there's one thing that it sort of, I don't want to use the word lacks, but just to say doesn't have from the old Tarbis is, the old Tarbis, because it was just a 12 by 12 shed, I didn't give it a second thought. I just slapped stuff up on the wall, and it sort of had that almost old garage, old hangar feel to it. This,
a lot of character.
Yes. This, on the other hand, is more refined and organized. So, because...
Kind of like your living room.
Yeah, now that I actually have a nice interior, I don't want to go just gluing stuff to the wall. I'm like, oh my God, I've lost my grassroots. I've become a snob. Oh my God. But anyway, you guys remember the Roach Motel of a table that I had a month or so ago that I got for $10?
Yeah.
Or as I call it, the Great Boondoggle. Anyway, we have a place down in Daytona where a family member lives, and we were getting rid of the dinette set, and I went, hey, that'd make a great table. So I have a new work table area from the old dinette, because we weren't going to toss it, obviously. So let me just bring that picture up. Okay. So I have expanded my work area considerably by using this old dinette set. So now I've got a lot more room to spread out, and it fit pretty well. And my wife was out here helping me. By the way, you'll notice I moved all the armor models I had here in the office up onto that shelf, creating a little room in here. I had to declutter the office. I can't believe it! I bought a bigger house and put in a freaking 30-foot Tarbis, and I'm still running out of space. How is this happening? Clearly, I do not understand relative time and dimension. Was it time and relative dimension in space?
Well, you know that old rule, data and stuff expands to fill all occupied space.
Brother, there is no truer truism, except death and taxes.
Darkwood says it's more she-shed than Tarbis.
Ooh.
I deny that. I deny that vociferously. Heretic.
What is that air conditioning doing in the window?
I haven't bought the other unit yet. I have a temporary window AC unit until I can get a more permanent, larger unit installed, which is designed. Which, by the way, Ken, I gotta admit, because I have a fan in there, it actually kind of does an okay job, but we haven't hit a Florida summer yet. If you guys have not been through a Florida summer, allow me to describe one to you. Sauna. And I don't mean that in a good way.
There's one kind of like truism that my wife and I have is that shade, when we go to park someplace, shade trumps closeness.
Oh yeah. Hold on to that thought, cause I took a picture today.
He's gonna put a 90-foot tree over the Tarbus now. Watch.
It's already under a shed. There you go, boys and girls. Took the Mustang out for a little exercise today. Went over to Hurricane Hobbies, and I had two options: park right in front of the store where the sun was shining bright, or park in the shade and risk a few leaves falling in the open-top car. Oh, trust me, we parked in the shady. That is Florida parking.
Worth it.
Oh, so worth it. Jumped in the car after I was done and didn't even get any blisters.
Yep.
So trust me, boys and girls, in Florida, you can tell the tourists from the locals by where they park.
That's right.
I love that car.
You know what you should do in the Tarbus to make yourself have more room? Get rid of all the tables and just build a big workbench that goes around the perimeter with storage underneath.
I actually, one of the glue troopers who built his own shed, you guys might remember a couple of weeks ago, I showed his pictures that he sent me. He did exactly that. But I basically have the tables going around the ring of the building doing the same thing. So I kind of already have that.
But they're already different depths.
And you don't have any shelves underneath.
No, they're
shelves underneath to store stuff. So you got wasted space there.
Well,
Just a thought.
Well, we'll see. The nice thing about the stuff I have now, it's all completely mobile. I can move it around. But we'll see. I'll work something out. But you can see right there that I have kind of the same thing. But don't forget, we have to have room for all the box art too. And
that's true. Well, that's what goes up on the walls above the tables.
And because one thing that was made very clear by my very tolerant and lovely wife was that in the office and in the Tarbus, I can hang all the box art I want. That's where it stops. Because
yeah, my wife has recently commented.
That's how this is how we roll.
I got a couple airplanes and my pinball machines in the living room, and a friend of mine came to visit a few weeks ago, and he says, "It looks like a frat house here." That didn't go over real good with my wife.
Ken, my guess is
it looks like get your airplanes out of here.
My guess is if you keep putting the pinball machine in the living room, the last word you'll ever hear is, "Trust me, it's for the best." But
well, on the I don't know what for her good, for me okay, kind of good. Pinball machine's gonna go up for sale sometime soon because hopefully this summer I'm going to be buying a boat, and I promised her I'd sell the pinball machine and put the funds towards the boat.
Boats, a hole in the water in which one pours money. You realize, Ken, for those who do not know,
Skipper and Gilligan are going to deliver it.
For those who do not know,
is coming to an end.
Excuse me, guys, but I have something to say.
What? You're here? Still here?
It's my show. Anyway, you see, this is what you can get away with. You've been friends for 30 years. Yeah, about 32 years, Ken. 33. It's been a while.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, when you first met me, I was young and beautiful. Now I'm old and beautiful. Anyway, For those who
And a few
don't
pounds
know,
lighter.
For those who don't know, Ken he's been a programmer for most of his life, but he's also worked in like the restaurant industry for as a writing point of sale software. Anyway, Ken has learned a lot about the restaurant industry, and one of the things he told me was, and Kenny, you'll remember this, what's the axiom about a restaurant? You don't own a restaurant. Ta-da.
It owns you.
It owns you. Dude, same goes for a boat. You
I
buy
learned
that
something
boat.
kind of interesting the other day, that boat stands for something else, too. Have you ever heard the term boat unit?
Mm-hmm. I've heard it, don't know what it means.
Oh, it roughly translates to $1,000.
Ah. So it'll be 12
So
boat
you're
units.
speaking boat units now.
Okay. Well, Ken, trust me. You better have Steve's attitude of retire, expire, never quit working, because I assure you, the minute you buy that boat, you won't be able to retire.
No, not unless I sell the house or rent it out and move on to the boat. Yeah, that's true.
No, you still won't be able to retire. It will suck you dry like a vampire. Trust me, I know these things, Ken. Remember, I used to own an airplane. And
How do you know, Max?
because I used to own an airplane. Owning an airplane is like owning a boat on steroids. Whereas a car part is $12, the exact same part for a boat is $68. The exact same part for an airplane is $300. And I am not making a joke. Allow me to extemporate for just a moment, please.
Ooh, there's a big word.
Extemporate? Yeah, I had to look that up. Anyway,
And
so
it's going to get complicated.
okay, no, actually, it's going to remain extremely simple. When I was but a tyke, and by that I mean a teenager, my dad, who was my dad was an A&E mechanic. Christ, a tangent with a tangent. That's like tangent squared. Today, if you're a mechanic on an aircraft, you get what's called an A&P, aircraft and power plant. When my dad got his back in the late 40s, it was A&E, aircraft and engine. That was before jet engines were common. Once jet engines and turboprops became common, they realized that engine didn't apply because turbines are motors. So they decided to, well, depending on who you want to ask. I mean, that right there is an argument in its own right. If it's electric, it's a motor. If it's fuel operated, it's an engine. Blah, blah, blah. No, if it's a turbine, it's a motor. Yeah. I don't care. Anyway, the point is they changed the designation from A&E to A&P. Then my dad had an A&E. Well,
Okay, back up a tangent.
okay, that was tangent one taken care of. Now we're down to tangent, or primary. We're down to tangent primary. My dad had to get...
make this a 4-hour show at this rate.
You should be so lucky you never had it so good. Anyway, so
I'm trying to keep them under control.
you try, but anyway, it's like,
It's like that's like putting more logs on a fire, Ken, okay?
Did I mention I was two
All right,
shots down
continue
before the
with
show
tangent two.
started? Anyway, anywho, my dad bought a 85 horsepower Luscombe 8E, which is the airplane I learned to fly in back in the 70s. And it had an 85 horsepower Continental, and it had, of course, an electric starter, which a lot of the 65s did not. So I was spoiled. I got to learn in an airplane where you could start it from the inside instead of having to prop it off. You see, I still got all 10 digits. Anyway,
So this was like the Volkswagen of the air, is that it?
you could sort of go there, maybe. Yeah, that's not too bad. I mean, it's a step above a Cub or a Veronica Champ. Definitely faster. I mean, this airplane do 102 miles an hour. It would do 95 miles an hour on the 65 and 102 miles an hour on the 85. So it was actually quite the spiffy little machine.
That is pretty quick.
But it was very touchy on the rudders. It had a red ground looping tendency. And as one writer said, people love the Luscombe because no one can resist a pretty girl with a bad reputation. Anyway, so the starter crapped out, and a starter back in 1977, they went like $300 or something for the starter. My dad went to Massey Ferguson Tractor Company with the starter, They had the exact same unit for like $18. All right, but it was a tractor part. It was a tractor part. He put it on. It worked fine. He just said, "Don't tell anybody." Okay, I will be part of your criminal enterprise. And life was happy. So, after my dad passed away, he had bought 3 airplanes. He had the lOTSA, he had a 150 horsepower Beach Musketeer Sport, and he had a 1960 Aztec short nose model Piper Aztec light twin, which was the first twin engine airplane I ever flew, and that's a whole nother thing. Don't get me started on that, but I freaking love that airplane. Anyway, I was gonna.
I've been told Aztec's got enough power that if you lose an engine, that gets you to the crash site.
No, that's the Apache.
Oh.
Okay. Good move, Ken. You just sent me on another tangent. Slick move, Kenny. Okay. And you wonder why they always kill Kenny. So anyway. You didn't think I was going to let that go. That is not getting old anytime soon. Anyway, so Piper built a light twin based on a Giuseppe Balanca design. Balanca had built designed a little light twin with a cool little twin tail. Piper bought it, gave it a straight tail, called it the Piper Apache. And so the Apache was always known for anemic power. Started with a pair of 150s. That was the one where if you smoked a motor, the other engine would just get you barely get you to the crash site. And I actually know someone who I work with who was in one that choked a motor, and they could not, they had it cleaned up. They did everything right. It just would not get back to the airport, and they slid it into an open field, and no one got hurt. The plane was rebuildable. They did a great job, but the 160, 2 people, half gas, maybe keep it in the air. So finally they went up to 180s, and yeah, okay, 2 people, half gas, that would fly. But they realized it was still kind of anemic, especially because it had 4 seats. You had 4 people in the plane, any kind of fuel load, you weren't getting back even with the 180, maybe with the 180s. So they wound up going all the way up to 235s. All right, now the plane had some real power. The problem was they had to build a new tail for it because it had so much torque and everything. It had to be in the case of a V1 cut. So they put a big square tail on it. It still had the short nose and everything, the big 235s. And I've only seen one of these. As long as I've been hanging around airports, I've only seen one 235 Apache. So finally they said, you know what, let's quit screwing around. And these were on the PA-23 type rating, Piper Aircraft Model 23. So they decided finally, let's just put a pair of 250s on it. We won't have any problems. But they were like, well, maybe because of the reputation of the Apache, we should give it a new name. So they called it the Aztec. The first year model.
Same plane, new name?
Same plane, new name. In fact, the Apache, when you see a dash number on a Piper like dash 180 or dash 160, that's the engine. Okay? So the PA-23-150 is a 150 horsepower Apache. The Aztec was on the same type rating, but it's the PA-23-250. The first year only, they had the same short nose with the new big tail that they put on the PA-23-235 Apache. But then now it was the Aztec. It had the big 250s on it, still had that big tail. It was the same type rating, the same airworthiness certificate. Otherwise, they'd have to go through the entire recertification process, which was prohibitively expensive. So, the exact same airplane with a big tail and bigger motors, slightly lengthened fuselage, becomes the Apache. The first year, the 1960, they had the short stub nose that came off of the Apache. After that, they started putting the long nose, the baggage compartment on them. And then you get the Aztec B and the Aztec C and all that stuff. Now, Aurora made I think the Aztec C. That's the famous Aurora Aztec model. I built 2 of those as a kid. Both of them came with the wrong freaking clear parts. They came with the clear parts for the Cherokee, which had the square, not the curved corner. They didn't fit, so I never bothered to paint them or decal them. So I had 2 model Aztecs that had no windows in them that I would just go vroom vroom and make vroom vroom noises with. And now,
never said that Aurora had good quality control.
They lied. Anyway, so that's why when I see an Aurora Aztec, and I do plan to get one someday, I had thought about getting the Aurora Aztec, cutting the nose off of it and putting the short blunt nose on as a kit bash to make my dad's airplane. But these things are going for a freaking $100. I can't bring myself to cut one up. And the thing is, I would need the nose off of the Aurora Apache, which I have the box art right there. I have an Apache on the shelf that I built. I paid about $60 for that thing. And I just built it as an Apache. I thought about cutting up a couple of Aurora kits to make it. But now the cowlings are different. But I just couldn't bring myself to do it. They're just too expensive.
And doesn't this sound like an adventure in 3D printing?
Funny hold on. Funny you should mention that. As I mentioned earlier, I went to Hurricane Hobbies today. As I was getting ready to leave, a gentleman came in who wanted some servos and electrical equipment for an RC car that he's 3D printing. So I started asking about what medium he's using, because for an RC car, you got to have something pretty indestructible. And I got into a discussion with him about the future kit models, whether or not 3D printing's the future of models and stuff. And Ken, what are those two? Is it TPU or something? One of the mediums that people 3D print in.
Yeah, TPU. TPU is a very flexible, bendable kind of material.
Right, and that's what he's using. He says it's pretty indestructible.
Yeah, PLA is not. That's the stuff I made the P38 out of.
PLA may prove more popular for modeling because apparently it's easier to glue together. But the TPU, which is apparently harder to get a hot seal on,
oh yeah,
but it's pretty indestructible when you do it. So some of you guys have been asking about 3D printing, so there's that little tidbit out there. The guys making RC cars out of TPU, and I just thought
there's two different kinds of flexibility. There's two different flexibility ratings. ABS would probably be better. It's stiffer and higher temperature rather than TPU. Actually ABS is probably easier to work with than TPU.
Okay.
You know, that brings up an interesting point, Ken. I wonder if they have any 3D printed plane models in the Air and Space Museum in San Diego. What do you think, Max? I
didn't see anything that looked 3D printed, but I saw one that looked weird. Let me see if I can find the picture real quick. And we're going to, thanks, Steve, because we're going to get over to San Diego Air and Space Museum visit, and they were very rich in models.
I tried.
Hey, no, good job of wheeling back on course.
40-some-odd years in sales have taught me how to do that.
Yeah, okay. Oh, here we go. Okay. I think this is the picture I want. Okay, guys, you'll look at this model of the H1 Racer, and I'm not...
Wait a minute. Lance Ravel says, a Pontiac Aztec is actually a good car. Lance, maybe for Helen Keller.
God.
Okay?
Sorry, Steve.
I don't get it.
The Pontiac Aztec, have you seen what it looks like?
It's ugly.
No, why?
It is ugly.
Oh, then you'd know what I was referring to.
Well, anyway.
So you're saying it puts the UGG in ugly?
In capital letters.
Yeah, it really does. Anyway,
Okay.
if you guys look at this model of the Hughes H1 Racer, let me see if I can expand a little bit here. I'm not sure, but I think this might be a paper model. It's not styrene. The cowling looked like it was carved out of wood.
Yeah, based on the landing strut cover, it looks like it's paper.
But anyway, so let me show you guys. I went to the San Diego Air and Space Museum while I was in San Diego for the first time ever. Beautiful city. And
there's a P100 in there.
Yes, there is. We're going to get to that, Ken. Don't worry.
Okay.
First off,
don't jump ahead, Ken.
You remember me talking earlier about the approach into San Diego? Now, the captain was flying the approach because I had never been there before. It's a weird, tight approach. They only have one runway, a 927. Normally with those coastal breezes, you use 2.7. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with San Diego, it has rising terrain on both ends of the airport, especially on the approach end. So as you're coming down, and we have all kinds of special NOTAMs and everything, notices to airmen about do not get low on the approach. When you use the precision approach path indicator, do not get low. You guys still there?
Still here.
Okay. I thought I heard that drop tone on my phone. Anyway, and as I'm flying in, the captain's flying, and I'm doing my FO thing. And by the way, flying with a super cool captain. But anyway, now that's an American 321 coming in. We were in not an American 321. But anyway, we're flying that type of aircraft in. And as I looked down, I saw the San Diego Air and Space Museum. They have Air and Space written on the roof, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be there in a couple hours."
That's a cool idea.
And
On the
but
approach to the runway, right on the roof.
this photo does not do it justice, because as we get close to the runway, some freaking rocket scientist approved a rental car parking garage right on short final, and we go over that thing, and God, we could have cleared it by 100, 200 feet. And I looked at it as we're going by, and I'm going, the first thing I looked, man, Steve wasn't kidding.
It's big, that garage.
And it's just not where it needs to be. And anyway, so that little gripe aside, we get on the ground. I go to the San Diego Air and Space Museum, and by the way, they have an A-12 out front. Now, for those of you who are aviation buffs, the A-12 the A-12 was a single-seat version of the SR-71 with a narrower chine. That
E-12. Okay.
Yeah, the chine, that flat area that goes around the perimeter of the fuselage, is thinner on the A-12. The SR-71 has a wider one. But it was a single-seat aircraft.
Stops at right around the cockpit, too.
Mm-hmm. And it was a single pilot. It was a single crew aircraft. They didn't have the back seater. The pilot had to run the cameras and everything. And I don't know, they made about a dozen of them. I don't know. Anyway, the A-12. But they have one on display out there. But you go to the Air and Space Museum, and one of the things I appreciated when I walked in the front door, of course, you see, I had forgotten. The Spirit of St. Louis was built in San Diego. So there's a Spirit of St. Louis at the airport, and there's a Spirit of St. Louis at the museum. And of course, they have one of the few Sea Darts on display out front also. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, back in 1962, which were very heady days, where thanks to the Cold War, the military had pretty much unlimited budgets, and some genius at Convair got the bright idea to stick an F-102 on water skis. And the result of this was the Sea Dart. Now, the Sea Dart was a supersonic float plane. It was not an amphibian. It did not have a landing gear. It had to land on the water. Now, this is an early model with the 2 skis, which caused a lot of problems. They later went to a larger single ski. The idea was to do away with aircraft carriers by having planes like the Seamaster and the Sea Dart, which could take off from the water, so all you needed was a tender ship, and you could have squadrons of aircraft anywhere there was water, which I gotta admit is a really wicked cool concept. Didn't work so well in practice.
One of the things that the pilots discovered is when they were taking off, that front ski was attached right underneath the seat.
Yep.
And it just pounded the crap out of them when they were hitting the waves.
That was particularly in this model, I think, with the 2 skis, I believe was the one that had that problem. You notice that the forward part of the skis are mounted right under the pilot's seat. This concept was, to say the least, interesting. And it shows how forward thinking they were back then. And the aircraft did work. You can go out on YouTube and see tons of footage of the thing flying around. And once it was in the air, it was a joy to fly. It was your typical Delta Wing Convair. But in practice, but it anyway.
The first episode of Sea Hunt.
It was Go ahead.
One of is when they're testing it and it crashes and it sinks to the bottom and Mike Nelson has to go down and figure a way to get the pilot out.
I remember I saw that episode recently on YouTube. Hey, Steve, tell them to give them the long version because I have to run out of the room for just a second. So go ahead and tell them the spiel.
On the first episode of Sea Hunt, I don't know how many of you have ever seen Sea Hunt. It's a scuba diving show from the 50s with Lloyd Bridges, who played a guy named Mike Nelson. And he was a retired Navy frogman, and he was for hire. So they're testing the Sea Dart, and it sort of crashes, and it sinks in the water. So they only have so much time to get the pilot out because he only has so much oxygen left. And they get a hold of Mike Nelson, and he goes down there, and he has to figure a way to get the guy out of the Sea Dart and get him up to the surface. And of course he does within the half hour of the show. But it was pretty interesting that they used the Sea Dart as the plane of topic because that was probably filmed in the 57 or 58, and the Sea Dart was taken out of service by then. But it's really an interesting plane, and to see it and the size of the plane, it's very interesting. I mean, it was built probably 2 miles away, and it was tested probably 4 miles away because they tested it right out in the bay in San Diego. So it's, not strayed too far from its home. But it was an interesting concept, as Max said. The whole Navy at the time, because the Navy couldn't get money like the Air Force could to put forth these grandiose plans they had. So the Seamaster and the Sea Dart were supposed to be serviced by tender ships, so they didn't need runways to take off and land, and they could theoretically land anywhere and take off in the world. Interesting concept for back then.
I have a story I read about the plane.
Continue, Ken.
Okay. It was during the one of the Seattle air shows. It wasn't the exact same year, but it's the same show that that guy barrel rolled the 707.
You talking about Tex?
Yeah.
Official.
Anyway. Right, but it wasn't the same year, but it was the same show. Anyway, they wanted to, the show people wanted to, have the Sea Dart in the show, and they were still testing the thing. They hadn't finished the testing regime yet, but the show people were really pushing. And who was it that made it? Convair.
Convair, yes.
Yeah. Well, the Convair executives wanted it to be in the show too, but the engineers are going, we haven't done testing this thing. We don't know, how it's going to react. And they said, okay, so they finally agreed. They'll just do a pass and then pull up and do a vertical climb, and that's all we'll do. And the engineer said, we haven't tested that yet. We don't know what it's going to do. And I'm sure everybody was thinking, it's just a climb. What could go wrong? Well, unfortunately, what they didn't understand was there was coupling. And when they sharply pulled up, there was some kind of an oscillation in the airframe between the controls, and the plane went out of control and ended up crashing.
Yeah, inertial roll coupling wasn't really well understood back then. Believe it or not, it was the X3 Stiletto, which, although unsuccessful as a supersonic test bed, it got caught in inertial roll coupling, but the pilot got it back, and it had all the measuring equipment on board, gave an idea. And super quick, Aviation 501, inertial roll coupling is where you move so fast that the control surfaces become pretty ineffective, and the weight, the center of gravity of the aircraft, the weight becomes the driving force. You try to turn the aircraft, and it follows the weight of the aircraft instead of the control inputs, which have been largely neutralized. And basically, the airplane can wind up flying belly first or something because it's following the center of gravity, is now leading the parade instead of the control surfaces. So, anywho, that's a very sophomoric description. So I go into the museum, the San Diego Air and Space Museum, and the first thing they have is a model of the San Diego Air and Space Museum, which our Aerospace Museum, which was really kind of cool in a way, although they didn't have all those aircraft on display out there. Maybe this is what they wanted to become or what it was at one point. But then
Ooh, maybe somebody should send them the model of the TARDIS.
Yes, that's museum worthy. But what I want to talk about is they had a lot of fantastic displays there, as you would expect. But they also, I mean, of course, you walk in, and the first thing you see is the Spirit of St. Louis, which was built in San Diego, so they're very proud of that. Understandable. And they got the mannequin of Lindbergh and everything. And they have one just like that hanging in the airport.
There was only one Spirit of St. Louis, right?
What?
There was only one Spirit of St. Louis, right?
There was only one Spirit of St. Louis. It was custom made by Ryan. Ryan Aircraft was based in San Diego, but they called the Spirit of St. Louis.
In the air and space?
It was called the Spirit of St. Louis because it was St. Louis bankers that financed it.
Right, yeah, but the plane itself is in the Air and Space Museum.
The actual original is in the Air and Space, yes. There are at least two replicas in San
okay.
There are two replicas in San Diego. One is here at the Air and Space Museum, the other's hanging up at the airport, which is called Lindbergh Field. And I know someone's probably going to mention that, yes, unfortunately, Lindbergh Field is the site of a couple of mid-air collisions. An Aeromexico 727 got clipped by a light plane, and also a PSA 727 got hit by a light plane. So San Diego, some very busy airspace. And that's why when you're flying into SoCal, Southern California, and talking to SoCal Approach, you shut your mouth, listen to what they say, and do what they tell you. But
immediately.
The interesting thing about the building that the Air and Space Museum is in, that building was built by Ford. That was one of the Rotunda buildings. When they had the Pan American Fair, where they built most of the buildings for Balboa Park, Ford built that building, which is now the Air and Space Museum, and it was one of the Rotunda buildings. If anybody went to the World's Fair in '64, you remember that part of the Ford exhibit was a Rotunda building, which they also had one in Detroit.
Now, wait a minute. Hold on. Steve, I want to make sure because there are a lot of similar names. The San Diego Air and Space Museum was a Ford Rotunda.
Yes.
Okay. That's
why if you look at the building and you go in it, you go around, you walk around.
I'm trying to find
the exhibits.
There you guys can see. There you guys can see the Rotunda building. I was wondering why it was shaped like that. Oops. I was wondering why it was shaped like that. That makes perfect sense now. So when the 64 World's Fair took place, they had sites across the country.
Yeah, which were built way long time ago, but yes.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Very good. Now, because this is a kit model channel primarily, when we're not sailing off on tangents, one of the things I wanted to talk about was how many models they had on display here. Now, this museum, I've been to a lot of museums, and most of them have some models. But what this museum does, it probably has more models than any museum I've ever been to. Especially given at least larger museums, especially given that they have a lot of really good displays. Now, like most museums, the aircraft are jam-packed in there so tight that you really can't get back and get a good picture of them because there's just too much stuff in the way. Because they have more stuff than they have room to display it. And but virtually everything had had models on display to help explain whatever it was they were doing or they were talking about. And what I really
right in the middle, that's Artemis, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
with
so.
Dreamliner off the next to it.
Well, and that's not a Dreamliner. I forget what that was. But here's the thing: they also had models
Starliner.
Starliner. No, I don't think it's Starliner. But they had models of some of the proposed Boeing projects. But they also had, let's see if it's green. If you notice out front, they had Boom, the models of the Boom aircraft that has yet to be built. And I was actually going to get to this in a second. Some of these are wind tunnel models. These aren't, Let's see. There we go. Here they go. They got the Boom and the flying car and some other stuff. They had all kinds of stuff in there. I mean, I was like really sort of impressed by some of the stuff they had on display there. And they actually have a segment, the one or two displays that were dedicated to wind tunnel models. This is one of them, and this is actually two aircraft. Let me do a fit to screen here so you can see the whole transform, fit to screen.
Talking about that flying wing with 3 engines on it?
No, that was this Boeing blended wing design. I'm talking about.
I see the Boom one now.
The Boom is a green, yeah. Well, actually, I don't know if that was Boom or something else, but here is a space shuttle wind tunnel model they have on display, and another supersonic design that was. These were actual supposed to be wind tunnel models, but they also, and this is the part I really appreciate. Like when you go to the World War II section or something, you go to the British airplanes or the American airplanes or whatever. And, well, hold on. Before I get there, let me start with the World War I stuff. You guys have probably seen these very complex, they call them museum-grade World War I kits that are basically, de-skinned, factory-accurate models. And they had several of those on display. I mean, and some of, I meant to mention, they have their own model shop here. Okay?
Yes, they do.
And they do phenomenal work. But I was super impressed by the de-skinned, fully accurate, and we have a glue trooper who's building one like this right now. And he's making a lot of his own parts. And
Wow.
That is just a staggering amount of attention to detail and work. And you can just sit there and stare at it. Just, my God, got the cables and pulleys and everything. They also...
You can almost build the real one for the same amount of work.
That's... Tell you what. One of the other things they made, which is actually even on their website, I think, is a... let's see, let me find it real quick. And of course, they have a lot of real airplanes. They have a lot of real airplanes in there. What you're about to see is a shop-built 1/4 scale B-24 bomber. This is an enormous, it's got about a 20-foot wingspan. This is not an RC or something. This is something they built for display. Eager Beaver was a real B-24. I think it served in North Africa. But anyway, so they have a shop that builds these models for display. Now, what's great is they have an excellent collection of aircraft, but what they don't have, they fill in with really good models. Now, some of them are like the Eager Beaver, and others are good old-fashioned 1/48 scale kit models that they build and put on display. And let's see, let me find real quick, go to the World War II section.
Is that the landing gear between the inboard and outboard engine?
Yeah, it folds outward on a B-24.
Wow.
And just some amazing models. Let me get down here. Okay, here we go. Here is and they have them, of course, under glass. Here is a B-26 Marauder that with a feathered prop that came in on one engine. It's screen. It's just one of their, and it's one of many that are in the glass, and that's probably the monogram kit, but just beautifully built, and like you would expect from museum quality, they have it right down to the bomb unit and the bomber squadron and unit and everything. Like I said, it took 408 pictures. There's too many to show here. I'm just giving you some samples. In the Navy section. What?
The other thing that they have, which is not on site, which is at the other side of town, is they have a rocket park also.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah, with a replica of rockets. And what they do is they have events there, and they have kids make Estes rockets and fire them off from the rocket park.
Oh.
How cool is that?
Very cool.
One of the things they did I thought was really cool is they have in one area this thing to the Flying Tigers. They have all the airplanes of the Flying Tiger, all the different versions of the P-40, and when they became the was it 22nd Air Force or whatever, and I apparently didn't get a good picture of it, but somebody handcrafted a model of Claire Chenault at a work table there. Let me see. Did I get a picture of that? I thought I got a picture of it. Let me take a quick look. But this is an example of, they're very thematic about it. They stay with the theme. If you're in the World War II section, then at Navy aircraft, they'll have World War II naval aircraft, that sort of thing. Let me see if... oh, there he is. There's the thing of Chenault. Unfortunately, they're all under glass, which makes it difficult. You need glare and everything. But magnificent representations and very thought
The guy
out.
sitting at the desk.
That's Claire Chenault, the general that ran the Flying Tigers.
Pay
And
attention, Ken. Come on.
good Lord, Ken, I only said it 3 times. Oh, 5 demerits.
All right.
Another good example, Ken, you were talking about the Piaggio, is the racing aircraft. Well, they have all, by the GB, they have these things of racing aircraft. This Piaggio, the Hughes H1 Racer, and a lot of the aircraft from that era in time. And wonderful builds, obviously. I mean, literally museum quality. They also have a lot of kit models that were just very well built up. That let's see. Okay, what's going on here? Image.
I like that Dornier flying boat model.
That was the 10, wasn't it? Or the DX?
Dornier 10,
Like
that's
that?
correct.
Yes.
They also have a lot of full-size aircraft. The problem with the full-size aircraft, as I pointed out, is they're often jammed in so tight that you can't really get a good picture of them. Here we go. This is the Japanese
Yeah,
aircraft.
there's no placard in there for the P100.
No, some of them but these are pretty much, just basic kits like you and I would build, just very nicely done and put on display in the museum. But they're very coordinated with it. Japanese in one, German in another, U.S. Navy in one, U.S. Air Corps in another, and usually with the larger scale models hanging above that they built, hanging above them, and the full size aircraft on display right there. And replicas of famous.
Did you get to see the F4 and the MiG in the center?
Oh yeah. Out in the center concourse, they have the MiG-17 and the Phantom in Duke and Driscoll's paint scheme and everything up on a stick and are hanging from the ceiling, chasing the MiG-17 and Colonel Toombs paint scheme, and if there really was a Colonel Tomb. What I love about it is models were so well represented. That's why I used a lot of these pictures for the intro. And one of the things I really appreciated was they weren't, like snobs that were just, only airplanes. They had the Zeppelin stuff and everything else. And they even had the Zeppelin with the BE-2 going up to shoot it down. A lot of artwork. Because I was by myself.
Vickers?
Huh? What?
The gun? Is that
Probably.
a Vickers?
That actually is like a Spandau. The
thing that's impressive there is the Wall of Fame.
I did not actually take a picture of that.
Oh, okay.
Now, one thing I want to point out was they also had something kind of interesting. This model, the reason this particular model I'm about to show you here is so interesting is because it is actually a model from that era. I believe this is a 1916 issued kit that somebody built and somehow has managed to survive for over 100 years, which explains why it's so warped and everything. It's not styrene, of course, it's made out of wood. But just the idea, they had some trench art in there and some hand-carved models from the era. That's gives you the idea that modeling goes back further than a lot of us realize. Yeah, friend, I have visited the Naval Air Museum in Pensacola, thank God, pre-COVID. for Naval and Marine Corps Aviation, it cannot be topped. They have stuff no one else can touch. Probably to me at the Naval, unfortunately, I think the Naval Air Museum, you have to get an appointment or something. I'm not really sure post-COVID what the deal is on visiting it. But probably to me, the most important thing they have on display there is they have one of the Marine Corps SBDs that they learned was actually at the Battle of Midway from VMSB 241. They were stripping the paint off of it and they found the markings underneath and they went, hey, wait a minute, we've got some information here. And they ran the bureau number. It turned out it was one of the 8 aircraft in VMSB 241 that survived the battle and came back. It was sent back to the States and then used as a trainer. And it wound up, actually I forget what happened to it, but they repainted everything but the tail, which still had the original markings on it. And there's actually some YouTube videos about it out there. And it is one of the most historically significant aircraft on display. I mean, obviously, you know, the Wright Flyer and the Spirit of St. Louis and the Bell X-1 are in a category of their own. But of military survivors, it's one of the few actual combat veterans that's on display. Making it very historically significant.
Roy just commented about the F4 there, and I agree with him. I think that was Randy Cunningham's plane.
It is. It says Cunningham and Driscoll under the cockpits. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, as I understand it, I've been told this, but I have no proof that this is true, that Cunningham and Driscoll, like the Air Force, you had to share your kill with the backseater. And I think I got a picture of it here. Let me see. Here it is. Here it is. Got it. Okay, this is the F4. And it says Cunningham under the front seat and Driscoll under the back seat. And for those who don't know, Duke Cunningham, who sadly later wound up in prison, was a fighter ace. Driscoll was Randy Driscoll was his backseater. They bagged, I think it was a total of 6 MiGs. The Air Force was, to put it mildly, not happy that the Navy was going to grant an ace to the back seat. They weren't happy that the Navy had an ace to begin with. Their claim to fame is I think they already had 3 to their credit, but I think they got 3 in one dogfight, and one of them was the mysterious Colonel Tomb, who a lot of people think never really existed but was a PR creation. Flying a MiG-17. Hold on, image. Okay, browse. A lot of people think that they were actually combining the kills of several North Vietnamese pilots to create the image of this guy, Colonel Tomb. They may have shared an aircraft. This is their representation of Tomb's aircraft, which was a MiG-17. Supposedly he had, people vary, supposedly 16 American kills. Nobody really knows. No one even knows he really existed, and I personally don't think he did. I think it was a PR creation. But the point is the Vietnamese did have several pilots with multiple kills, and because of our rules of engagement. But anyway, I don't want to get down that. You want to talk about a tangent? We'll never crawl out of that one.
No, we'll be down that one for days.
But anyway. They got into a vertical rolling scissors with the guy, and of course they didn't have a gun. But eventually he broke. I think he was running out of fuel and broke off the combat. They were able to get a clean missile shot and shoot him down. And I think they got 3 in that dogfight. But anyway, that was like their 6th kill together, of making them both aces. And when they were on their way out, they got hit by a surface-to-air missile, which blew the tail off. And I remember listening to Cunningham talk about it. He said that the plane went out of control, and he was a fairly religious guy. He started praying and everything, trying to fight the airplane. When he got the airplane back, he goes, I arrogantly thought, what am I thanking God for? He didn't do that. I did. And then the plane spun out of control again. He said, take it back, take it back, take it back. And he was able to nurse the thing out over the water. They knew if they ejected, they knew they weren't making it back to the ship, or at least they weren't trapping. But if they ejected over land, they were POWs for the duration. So he managed to get the airplane out over the water where the Navy had complete dominance. Then they ejected and got fished out. Unfortunately, Duke he became a U.S. congressman, and unfortunately, he did some foolish stuff. And
where do you think our current president learned it?
Yeah, really. Well, he was a Republican congressman, and without getting political, they've never been as good at it as the other side. So anyway, he got caught and wound up doing a stint in prison. Said. I think he's out now, but it tarnished an otherwise stellar. I mean, he was a genuine American hero and a naval hero, and of course now he'll just be remembered as a jailbird.
Trump pardoned him.
Yeah, but the stigma never goes away.
I know. I'm just saying that that's how he got out. Trump pardoned him.
But it's very tragic on so many levels. And
yeah, well, he kind of drew attention to himself. I mean, here's a guy who's a congressman. He's driving around a Rolls Royce.
Yeah, like I said, they just don't know how to do it like the other side. But anyway, I'm glad though that the good people of San Diego saw fit to keep his name on the airplane and not hide from it. That does them credit. But anywho, they have tons and tons of models on display, as well as and one thing I like is I'm showing here is their little Battle of Britain thing, and they have this big glass case that has a lot of the primary aircraft from the Battle of Britain: the Hankels, the Dorniers, the Stuka, the Spitfire, the Hurricane, and everything. And it just made it really. There's nothing like a model is such a magnificent three-dimensional representation, and it's a wonderful museum. Guys, I am only skimming the surface here because we have other things to do. But when we play the outro, you'll see a lot more of the pictures. I basically just sent them down and put music to them. And don't worry about the music. That was just something I threw together in a hurry because I got way behind, as I mentioned earlier. Now, once we were done with the Air and Space Museum, which I have not done it justice here. Can't do it in 2 hours. I went over to the Automotive Museum, which is right next door. And to their credit, the good people of San Diego have a lot of their museums at Balboa Park. And that means they have a little trolley that runs too, so you don't have to walk between them. I also went over to the Comic-Con Museum, but that was mostly just animations and stuff. I didn't really see that as that exciting. So, but it's nice that they have it. But anyway, they had a lot of cool cars. It's a much smaller museum, not as many exhibits. They only had like one model car on display. But the
they sell model cars in the gift shop.
Oh yeah, but they had this little jewel there. They had a lot of cool stuff. They're one-offs, definitely. And I wasn't sure what that was. And I looked at it and I was like, it looks like a Ferrari, but it's not a Ferrari. And I'm like, well, I guess I had better read the little placard on it. And I was, kind of right.
It's a Bizzarini.
A Bizzarini, that's correct. Okay, Steve, instead of me wasting time putting up the placard, talk to us about the Bizzarini.
Bizzarini is a car that was made in Italy because the owner didn't like Ferraris and thought he could do a better job, and they usually were powered by a 350 Chevy engine.
Were they any good?
They made coupes. This car that they have here is pretty rare because they didn't make that many open ones. They stayed around for a couple of years, but not that long.
Well, did he manage to give Ferrari a run for his money, or was it a waste of time?
No, it was a waste of time.
Oh, okay. So, Bizzarini was a flopperini.
Compete on the scale.
Huh?
Couldn't make enough cars,
What was the car? I'm sorry, that's not a Bizzarrini. That's a friggin' Viper.
It was okay. It was fair for what it was.
Well, okay. Cost as much as a Ferrari?
No, but it wasn't a world beater, so it didn't matter.
Okay. Well,
now the Viper in front. The Viper in front. That
yeah.
You're playing my tune.
You like the Viper, huh?
Yes, I do. And that's a later Viper. That has roll-up windows and air conditioning and all the creature comforts that the early ones didn't have.
Ah. Well, unfortunately, the car that I really like, and I've talked about it before, at least for external appearance, they did have a De Tomaso Mangusta. What you can't see in this photograph is that it's roped off, and I couldn't get to it to take. I wanted to look in the interior and see what you were telling me about the foot pedals on that thing, but I couldn't see it.
But no, that's the Pantera that has that problem with the foot. Well, that's a Pantera. Yeah.
Right. Well, it says that they call it the Mangusta.
You said Mangusta.
Is that a Mangusta or a Pantera?
No, that's a Pantera.
What's the difference between that and a Mangusta?
Panteras. I got to sit in one once.
And it's got that has the U.S. approved front bumper.
I don't know. It looks pretty cool.
10-mile-an-hour bumper.
It works cool. It works on that car.
Elvis had one. He shot it. Elvis went to go out to the movies one night with one of his girlfriends, and what he used to do is he used to rent the entire theater.
Uh-huh.
And he'd go out to the theater at like midnight with his entourage, and he went to get into the Pantera and tried to start it, wouldn't start. He got so pissed off he pulled his gun out and shot the dashboard.
Well, you don't get much more Elvis-y than that.
You just don't piss off the king. I know.
In any royal society.
Sure.
Is that car still around?
The Pantera?
No,
the one that you shot?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in a museum somewhere.
Complete with bullet hole?
I don't know. I think they fixed it.
Oh, okay.
Well, that leads us indirectly into the next thing. I went down to Little Italy, had lunch. Oh! I forgot to mention real quick before we get carried away. They had a Vincent Black Shadow there, but they also had a really good motorcycle collection. Let me see if I can find
they do.
I'm looking for the particular photo. Yeah, you guys.
Did they have that guy's car that he put all those gadgets in? Is that still there?
Hold on, I know exactly what you're talking about. Let me find it. It's here. Here it is. Unfortunately, okay. Here. Oh, wait a minute. I think this is it. Yeah, here it is. So he could live in it.
Right.
He had a crapper and everything else.
They roll it out for the homeless people every couple of days.
Man, you gotta love your car to want to live in it.
The $75,000 Cadillac, I think is what they call it. Yeah, this guy had a kitchen, a pooper, the works. He had a little trailer behind it. Apparently, he could live in the car, and yeah, whatever, dude. But
had all the white gadgets in it. It was amazing. Had an ironing board. It had a shaver. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, see the ironing board.
There was stuff under the hood that they added to the engine so you could cook on it. I mean,
like you do.
We used to do that with the Boy Scouts. We used to take, stuff in cans and we'd run the engine, put it on top of the can, and it would, we'd cut the top off the can, you put it on, we'd start bubbling, okay, we'd take it off.
Okay.
And serve it to them.
They did a bit on the old sitcom Wings about that called the Carbecue.
Yeah.
Where they would put the food in these things, put on the engine, drive around town, and come back, and it would be cooked. And it was like, yeah.
Well, that time that I got to ride in that train, in the cab of the train engine,
Yeah.
the engineers would tell me that sometimes they would bring a pizza on with them, and they would stick it on top of the engine to heat it up.
Well, the reason that pizza got really popular in the United States, pizza got popular in Detroit because the guys who were the auto workers would make them, and they'd bring them to work, and they'd put it on top of the radiator inside the factory.
Okay.
And so by the time they were ready to eat lunch, the pizza would be done. Yep.
Okay, Steve, I got a no-brainer coming up for you, and I realize we're on a bit of a delay, but this one's a gimme. But we'll get to the harder cars in just a second. We're going to play a game of Steve Identify That Car.
Here we go.
And we're on about a 20-25 second lag. There you go.
I don't see it yet, so...
Okay, it'll take a while for you to get it.
Oh, GT350.
GT350 is correct. All right.
Built in the place Mike took you to and showed you.
Yep.
Which is now a FedEx terminal in LAX.
All right, here's another softball for you before we get to the more obscure stuff. Let's see, transform, fit to screen. You will have no trouble with this one.
We should do something like that, but with something I know something about.
Oh, I think we
Okay.
can do that, Ken.
We're going to do
Yeah.
those.
No, go to a computer museum. I can identify those. Most of them probably worked on.
61 in power.
All right. Next one's not going to be quite so easy.
Bubble top.
You got to give me a second to
Oh,
fit the
two-door.
screen. It'll be up in a few seconds. Sorry about the lag, guys.
Looks like a Camaro next to it.
Now, the wheel hub kind of gives it away, but anyway.
It's either a Camaro or it's a Firebird. It's probably a Firebird based on the spoiler. Oh, an airflow.
Who made it? It literally says it on the
DeSoto airflow.
DeSoto Airflow. All right, next batter up.
Another car that was too far ahead of its time.
Far ahead of its time. All right.
Why is that?
It was aerodynamic. It was structurally one of the most sound cars there were. You could roll that car over and it would still drive. It got great gas mileage because it was so aero, and it rode really good. But people just didn't like the way it looked because if you remember, it was the early 30s. The cars at the time, they still looked like Model Ts.
All right. Next one up.
Oh, this is some kind of Ford. It's probably a Model T. Yeah, it's a Model T.
It's a Model T. I was like, when you say, man, you said it before the picture even came up. I was like, well, that was a wasted one. Okay. Here we go. Hold on, I got to scroll
Give him
down.
a tough one.
Give him a tough one.
He's working on it. He's working on it.
Well, that one, I could give him this one, but it literally has the name on the front of it.
So that won't help. Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. Okay. Well, custom cars are kind of cheating here, you know.
It's like Car Jeopardy.
Yeah, but a custom. I mean, I'm sitting here putting up a custom car, but I'm like, come on, it's a one-off, so you can't really expect somebody to know that.
There's no win here. If I get them all right, I get to date Marion Bialik.
Who's that?
That's Amy Farrah Fowler.
Amy Farrah Fowler.
Oh, okay. Because she's doing Jeopardy. Oh, gotcha.
She's doing Jeopardy. All right, it's got a Hemi. It's probably like a 32 Ford.
Something along those lines. I actually don't have the information on it. I'm like, the problem is, okay, well, man, all these are gimmies
Nice
for
wheels. I like the wheels.
Okay.
And it's got a Hemi.
This one's for Ken, so let Ken answer this one.
All right. Okay.
I know it's going to take about 20 seconds for. That's the only problem with operating on this lag. But
I think I know what you're putting up.
So do I think.
There we go.
Yeah, if it's for me, I'm pretty sure I know what it is.
You could get it wrong.
Yep. Oh,
I
this
still
is
don't
easy.
see it.
That
I
was
don't
on
see
the
it yet.
fender. Oh.
Oh.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. That's a Z28, isn't it?
Z28.
Yep.
What year?
81.
Huh?
81.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one that was next to what we were looking at.
The tabletop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
next,
it was
next to it's a 55 Nomad.
Yeah, I'm not
It
gonna
was a
waste
Camaro.
everything. All the other cars in here are a little too easy. Oh, wait a minute. This one might be just a little tricky. Oh gosh. Curse the delay. I'm gonna go ahead and throw another picture up right behind it.
I like the rims on the Camaro. That's nice.
Yeah. Not original.
There you go.
No.
Oh, it's an MGA.
A what?
MGA.
MGA?
Yeah, it's an MG Model A.
Oh, okay. That literally has the name in front of it. So, you know what I learned? Here's another custom car just to give you something to, play Stump the Monkey.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Of course, this
Give
is.
him a tough one.
Well, actually, the name of this thing is literally standing up behind it.
There you go. Yeah.
That's a problem, darn it. And it's another one-off, of course.
Okay, it's a land speed type Bonneville car.
Let's see here. This next one's going to be a little too easy for you, but even though it's modified, but I'm sure you'll pick it up right away. Let's see, transform, fit to screen. I gotta admit that the bodywork on some of these handmade cars is really fantastic. It's no.
These guys are craftsmen. They're just amazing. And the thing that most people don't realize is not all of them are built in some mammoth shop with all kinds
No,
of
they're built in
equipment.
freaking garages.
Yeah. I mean, they're built in garages, sometimes in backyards. Well, it's like a 34 Ford pickup.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the other thing that I did is on the way back, after I had lunch with Little Italy, I walked back and I saw these, excuse me, it's starting to get a tickle in the throat here. I saw these sailing ships that were right out in front of the hotel. And I didn't have time to go to the museum because it was 5 o'clock when everything was closed. And I stopped and talked to the guy who's like the person you pay your money to. Turns out he's actually on guard duty. When they close, they have to have 24-hour guards on these old ships because they have so many relics on them. And turns out this is the San Diego Maritime Museum. That's right in front of the hotel. I took that photo from the hotel. And they have a whole bunch of ships on display. I've never seen a city that, given its population, has as many museums as San Diego. And
they do.
what astonished me was one of the ships is the Surprise. That's for those of you who have ever seen the movie. It used to be the Rose, and for those of you who've seen the movie Masters and Commanders, this is the ship. Aubrey's ship, Her Majesty's ship Surprise. And it is not in the best of shape, unfortunately, because they need about $10 million to refurbish her. But I had about an hour-long chat with this guy who worked there, and he was telling me that these wooden ships were really only designed to last about 40 years, and the Surprise was built in the 70s. And they have a submarine, the USS Dolphin, which was a research submarine for deep water work. And they have several other sloops and sailing vessels. But the one that they have that is truly the most impressive of the lot is the Star of India. Now,
Star of India, yep.
Now, when I saw it, I thought it was some kind of replica. This was built in 1863 and is still floating today and is in better shape than any other ships they have. It is an iron-hulled ship, not steel, iron. And it was made for originally it was made for the textile trade, because they couldn't get cotton from the American South because of the Civil War. So they had to go all the way to India to get it. And it always made circumnavigation navigated around the globe every time. So it repeatedly went across the Horn, the Cape of Good Hope, where all the bad weather's at. Because the ship was the first iron-hulled ship and they didn't know that much about it, they over-engineered it, which is why it's still sailing today. And it
Not
is...
uncommon for the first model ship.
Yeah. And it is a... Huh?
Is that Bob Marley there with the guitar?
Yeah, it kind of sort of Bob Marley wannabe. But, of course, they have tours and everything available. But the ship is one of the first... It is the first iron-hulled one that they made. And it's bigger than anything else there also. And it is a beast. And unlike the others, which are all more modern replicas and have diesel engines, this has no engine. It is a pure sailing vessel. And they still...
There's an opportunity for you.
To what?
Ken, here it is. There's
There
your
you
boat.
go, Ken. There's your boat.
No,
You can bring the whole family on that. Come on.
No, I couldn't afford one of those sails, let alone the boat.
But it is an impressive vessel to look at, and it is in a remarkably good condition, given its age and everything. And they have a whole bunch of stuff. This submarine they have on display, the Dolphin, was a deep sea research submarine. But anyway, I never even got around to the Midway. I just didn't have the time. And I felt bad because the Midway, I know, is a great museum. So next time I go to San Diego, Midway and the Maritime Museum are my two stops. And unfortunately, I do not have any San Diegos next month. Stuck going to Aruba repeatedly.
Oh, man, that's just...
Woe is me, woe is I. And,
Poor guy, I feel so sorry for you.
Yeah, but I gotta go to Kennedy
Stuck
first.
in
That's all.
overnight in Aruba.
Well, anywho, so now, guys, it's time to do an unboxing. I have a box here from... I did slice them earlier. I haven't been through them. This is from Mr. Nicholas.
Pictures in Little Italy?
What?
No pictures from Little Italy?
I think I took one, but it's Little Italy. It's a row of restaurants.
Oh, okay.
We have...
That'll be up on the wall of the Tarbus next week, Ken.
we have Koku fans from Mr. Nicholas, and again, these books have incredible photographs, stuff I've never seen anywhere else. And the Japanese are really into beautiful photography. Ooh, there's a nice picture. Never seen that one before. A vigilante taking off. I don't know how they got that photo. Probably from a helicopter. Hey, let me swoop the chopper. And well, thank you, Mr. Nicholas. I appreciate that. I actually have the rest of them right back here in this bookcase. This will be completed the collection. This box is from Garfield, Orange Tabby, and here are all the different notes they left behind every time they would stop and we wouldn't be on them. This is the one we did the video about. So let's see what we have. Okay. Okay. The CF-105 aircraft. It's a wooden model by Montoy. You can see the cutouts here of the CF-105. The greatest jet that never was. And we have, more Timmy's.
Uh-oh, Timmy.
Hold on.
What are Timmy's?
It's coffee.
Tim
Canadian
Hortons
coffee.
coffee.
Is what?
Coffee.
Tim Hortons coffee.
Ken doesn't drink coffee.
Oh.
And he calls himself a grown-up. We have some gag gifts. Another donut car from Hot Wheels. Bam, Batman! A gold Batmobile?
Yes.
Joker must have stole it and pimped it up.
It's heresy.
A gold Batmobile.
Yeah.
What
And a
were
little
they
Hot
thinking?
Wheels airplane.
Not much. They obviously had a lot of extra paint around.
Somebody who was on too much coffee thought that was a good idea.
A purple Batmobile.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, a Jeep with a, well, it's like a 106 recoilless rifle, the Godzilla one. Oh my gosh. Okay, you guys may remember NPC took their 106 recoilless Jeep and sold it with a paper Godzilla that goes up. I've got one. I've got it actually down on the shelf in the pilot room. And that's the one, the NPC kit, where it shows them with Godzilla in the background, and Godzilla versus Astro Monster was the movie, because the Jeep made about a 10-second appearance with all the other military vehicles in the movie, which was enough. I did not realize that Johnny Lightning made the same Godzilla Jeep. So now that's got to go. I'm not even going to take this out of the bubble wrap. This will go as it is with the NPC Jeep, Godzilla Jeep. I don't know where my paper Godzilla got off to. But
I think that was the biggest ripoff in kid history.
but there's it's still on the shelves today. They're still selling them.
Model of a Jeep with a cardboard Godzilla. Come on.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I was a little disappointed. I was like, "Where's my?" I wanted a big plastic Godzilla. And anyway,
Yeah, exactly. If you sent the license, which you had to pay for to have them on the package, put a Godzilla in there.
now hold on. Here's the problem with that. That Jeep's like a 124 scale. A 124 scale Godzilla is going to be about 6 feet tall. Somebody do the math. How big is a 124 scale Godzilla? And don't forget, that's from Astro Monster, where he's bigger than the original.
Has anybody ever officially described the height of the Godzilla?
Yes, they have determined that they determined that the
Yep.
original Godzilla stands 50 meters tall, exactly. And every other subsequent Godzilla is based off of that. That's the canon. So we have the Montoy fighter planes. Here's another one. And Max's first airplane includes pilot. It's a pterodactyl. Hold on. That's going.
I gotta see this. There you go.
Okay. Oh, more Timmies. Copy, good. Airfix de Havilland Heron. That is a 4-engine. Basically, they took the Dove and stretched it and put 4 engines on it. And it's a great kit. It is that in America, Riley converted them by putting Lycoming engines on them. They had one operating here up to the 1980s. I actually have probably a different one of these that I got from Hans Peter that I was kit bashing into a turboprop, and after the move, I'm having trouble finding it. It's in a bag somewhere. I know I have it. Here we have, the Beagle Basset. I actually knew a guy that flew one of these. I remember where you could buy them for fairly cheap because no one wanted to get them because they couldn't get parts for them. This was we would call it a light twin, but it's actually a bigger airplane than it looks. It has like 8 seats in it. But it was a British light twin. And the Fiat G50, which is one of their excellent fighter planes the Italians made. And actually a very dangerous fighter, as many of our pilots learned the hard way. Italians made excellent airplanes. Oh, here's a beaut. Airfix Hawker Siddeley Trident. Now, the Hawker Siddeley Trident, one of the first 3-engine jets, kind of looks like an American 727. But they joked that they actually had a 5-engine version of this because it had a little helper engine and an APU. And in fact, the BA Trident is the airplane that is abandoned out at Cyprus at that airport that, when they had the the big to-do in Cyprus with the Greeks and the Cypriots and everything, their civil war, and that airfield got closed, and there was a Trident that was stuck out there that got all shot up, and it's still sitting there today. Oh! I'm sure somebody is giving us a story on that because I forgot the details on it. British 25-pounder field gun and quad gun tractor. The Canadian Ford. As British as that looks, that is a Canadian Ford vehicle. And it is, we actually had a Glue Trooper build a model of it that was submitted for the Canadian build. And we might have had more than one. And it's actually an extremely well-respected military vehicle. And that 25-pounder gun was a pretty solid piece of artillery. Although I don't know if I could fit in one of those things. I get these World War II vehicles when I go to a museum, and you're amazed how tight they are. You realize back in the 1940s, the average man was only about 5'9", 5'10". All right, that is everything. Well, thank you, Garfield. I appreciate that. And these will go out to the TARDIS. Actually, you know what? I think I put some of them in here. And that will go out to the TARDIS. Okay, well, guys, we are... What are we looking at time-wise? Oh, 54. It's almost time to wrap up. Did we get to everything? I think so. We got the Maritime Museum. Again, guys, I'll go out and try and find Gavin's YouTube channel and link it below after we're done here, because I love the fact that young people are still into modeling. I want to do everything I can help to draw a little attention to them, get them some views, and keep them motivated. Well, guys, what else have we? You know what? Let's just take a quick look at.
See the red cloth over the top of the door.
Oh yeah, that's the do not enter flag. Boy, did I. A while back, I don't know why, a couple of months ago, I hit the live stream button. I think I was just testing something, and I was brought, and someone came in and just, there's a red flag on the door.
Yeah, you told us a story about that.
Yeah. That didn't have a happy ending.
Meanwhile, any reptile stories lately?
Well, for those who don't know, we had to kill a second snake in the house. I went full throttle Godzilla on that one. It was a little one. I just, dun dun dun, crunch.
You need to do a video representation of that for the viewers.
You need, recreations so that we can see exactly what happened. I'm sure it'll go viral.
No, there's something, it was I felt bad because I thought it was a coral snake, which is why I went so Godzilla on it. But then I found out it was just a Florida ringneck snake, which, although it's harmless to people, it can harm your pets, because although they don't have injecting fangs, they do have a poisonous saliva, like some lizards. And if it was to bite the cat, it could cause, so, but it was just a little baby, it was a little skinny one. But,
and that was the G2 snake.
Yeah.
Or the other snakes in the neighborhood to find out, how about this house?
Don't go in that house. Well, we actually had the lawn guy was coming out, the Terminex, or the Truly Nolan guy was coming out a couple of days later, and we bought a bunch of naphtha, and he sprayed it around the house, so that's supposed to deter snakes. They don't like the scent of it, so hopefully that won't happen anymore. It's funny. I've lived in Florida most of my life, and I'm 61. A grand total of 3 or maybe 4 snakes have ever ended up in the house. None of them venomous, thankfully. And but of the 2 of the 4 have been in the last month, which is weird. But I think that we're just, and I'm not sure the cat's not dragging them in. But
maybe
anyway.
the second one was looking for his buddy that came in the first time.
Yeah. Well, he's MIA.
Where's Fred?
So.
I haven't seen Fred in a while.
Well,
I sense a pattern here.
I actually did something. I think my wife, when she flushed the last one, the problem is that the others didn't get the memo because he sort of disappeared. This one, I took the corpus delicti out to the backyard to drop it where the birds could get it the next day. So they got the hint on that one. You know, that's like the pirates hanging outside the port. You
Yeah, we
know,
better move on. This guy's mean business.
and
Sydney, what happened to you, Sydney?
there are a bunch of snakes looking at me going, Gojira! But anyhow. Well, guys, I guess that's, wow, man, this 2 hours just shot by.
It did.
I can't believe- Well, that's
Hey, Max, I'm going to be up your way in 3 weeks.
Okay, well, keep me posted because I don't know when I'll be around. I got my next schedule, but that's how I know I'm going to be spending a lot of time in Aruba. But you know, it's a beautiful place. It's Aruba, but it's what?
Can you post the schedule of the builds?
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Let me hold on before we go. Let me go Word. Open that up. Updated build schedule. All right. Copy. All right. If I try, well, once this thing goes, well, hold on, maybe I can't. No, I'm going to try something dangerous here, guys. If the screen goes blank, the live stream's over. Okay. There it is. Max's Models live stream. Edit video. This ought to be interesting.
What could possibly go wrong?
Oh my God, I spelled lOTSA wrong. I got lOTSA stuff. Oh God.
There you go.
Lots of stuff. Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, hold on.
No one knows it's you.
Bill.
Oh.
Turn off the caps lock. Okay, here we go. Paste. All right. It is now posted there. And I think that is a wrap for the evening, guys. I want to thank everyone for coming out to join us. Hope you've had a good time. And
Hold on.
what?
I'm getting a lot of messages to tell you to open the petrodactyl.
The pterodactyl?
Yeah.
What's the pterodactyl?
I think it's
My
one of the
first-
little kids, the one that's-
Max's first airplane.
Max's first, plane or something.
Oh my God, Ken, it comes with a pilot. Okay. We're going to extend the show so I can do a live build.
Have you had enough adult beverage to perform this?
Are you kidding? I was 2 shots down before we started. What do you think I've been drinking this whole time? It ain't tea.
Apple juice?
Not even.
Well, Ken, this could take a while.
Nope, it's almost done. Oh, I should have the theme for the High and the Mighty going.
Live build 02.
Or better yet, airport. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun.
There it is.
You can teach monkeys to fly better than that. Thank you, Orange Tabby. I appreciate that. Okay, guys.
Overgrossed.
Very funny, Ken. Ha ha and ho.
Good night, Swaggo.
Good night, guys. Orange Tabby, thanks again. Gavin, I hope you get some hits on your channel. I'm glad to see young people building. And again, Mr. Nicholas, I want to thank you also for the books. Guys, thanks for everything. I will probably, as time allows over the week, use the same pictures you've already seen to put a couple of videos together, but you'll see them looped on the outro here if you want to sit there and see a lot more of the pictures. And it's, well, the intro. And that's pretty much it for the evening, guys. Ken, Steve, say goodnight.
Good night, Ken.
Good night, Steve.
Good night, John Boy.
Night, Matt.
Guys, take care of yourselves. And as always, model on.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. C'est payé, balayé, oublié. Je me fous du passé. Avec mes souvenirs, j'ai allumé le feu. Mes chagrins, mes plaisirs, je n'ai plus besoin de balayer les amours avec leur trémolo, balayer pour toujours. Je repars à zéro. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Car ma vie, car mes joies, aujourd'hui, ça commence avec toi. ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien, non, je ne regrette rien, c'est payé. J'ai allumé le feu, mes chagrins, mes plaisirs, je n'ai plus besoin de balayer les amours avec leur trémolo, balayer pour toujours. je repars à zéro. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien, ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Ma vie